Good evening and welcome to the Gothic Bohemian Salon. There's very little original thought happening on YouTube as regards to the Gothic subculture and those involved in it. In fact, I would say that not only is inventiveness discouraged in some ways, but stereotyping is almost encouraged. It seems like the same videos are being made over and over again, the same things are being said, and there's not much depth going on in any of these discussions. Well, a couple of discussions, there's been some real depth. The race in the Gothic subculture played around with a little bit of depth, though we kind of skimmed the surface and haven't spoken about it since. I would have liked that conversation to go on a little bit longer. I wanted to discuss one stereotypical thing that's been said over and over and over again, which I'm now starting to kind of wonder about the validity of. And that is that if you had a phase in your life where you were Gothic, and you no longer embrace the subculture in that way, then you were never really a goth in the first place? Okay, let's examine this a little bit. Now, there are bands who were considered goth bands, who were together for quite a long time, and who played music long after they didn't consider themselves goth. Don't you think that those bands were trying to kind of lift the noose of the limiting word goth off their necks so that they could enrich and branch out of that stereotype? I find that the people who say grew out of goth or, left it behind as some kind of phase, they merely became more complex individuals. So it's not so much a question of growing out of a phase as it is a progression. So you start out, let's say, as a goth, and you progress into something more. Can't we be more than just a goth? Because goth is, by definition, a rather narrow place to be right now, in my opinion. The other thing that keeps being repeated, you're supposed to do research in order to understand the subculture that you're joining. What sort of research are we supposed to be doing? Nobody ever explains it or says exactly what it is, or at least so far I haven't seen anybody explain it or tell me what kind of research we're supposed to be doing. Now, is this research as to how the subculture began? Is it research into the music we're supposed to be listening to? I think that's what they're referring to. And the reason why I have a problem with that is because, I'll tell you something, the most Gothic people that I knew, the most interesting and unusual people that I knew, were not influenced by the culture. Do you understand? They were not influenced by the subculture. These are people who already had a sensibility that could be called goth, who grew like hothouse flowers out in the middle of nowhere. They did not have the kind of media that we have today. They read what they read. They listened to what they listened to, and they made themselves look a certain way because they felt a certain way, and just by mad chance, they happened to fit into a new type of subculture that was beginning to flourish at that time. But these people were complex, intricate, deep individuals who were into very particular things that were very personal and important to them. Things like certain types of poetry, or certain films, or reading certain types of books, making artwork. The guy from Pomona, who wrote beautiful poetry and wore a black fur coat and dyed his hair black and wore pale makeup and had all these interesting feelings and things to say, who had definite feelings about the religion that he grew up with, the kind of people that he grew up with. This person was from Pomona. They grew up in a culture where hunting animals was something that one did for pleasure. I believe that that wasn't something that he agreed on. And this is one of the most unique people that I've ever met in my whole life. And that person progressed beyond Goth. And I wouldn't say that Goth was a phase for him. Now, I don't know if you're wondering who this person is, but would you be surprised to hear that the person I'm talking about is Rozz Williams from Christian Death? I don't know if you're familiar with the band, but they were quite seminal in the beginning. Ron Athey, also a member of Christian Death, is now a performance artist. He does performances all over the world. He's an AIDS positive, ass-kicking, political, body manipulating performance artist. And you could argue that he's no longer Goth. But was Goth a phase for Ron Athey that he grew out of? I don't think so. Because Ron Athey is doing some extraordinary things, and these are beyond Goth. These are, he's progressed onto a whole different level, a whole different life, a whole different sensibility, but it's not that far from, some of the basic Gothic things that we talk about. Those things are still important to him, but as far as I know, but he's progressed. He's changed as a person. He's grown. He's expanded. He's become more than Goth. More than Goth. It wasn't a phase that he grew out of. It was part of a progression towards something more. So let's rethink this whole idea that if you aren't Goth anymore, it was just a phase and you never really were. Let's seriously rethink that. I would be so interested in your ideas about this. I really, really would. So please make video responses, put your comments below, I really want to know what you think of all this. So, just to remind you, there's 2 days left until the deadline for the 99 subscribers giveaway, and there's still a chance that you could get your answers in and win, because we don't have anybody who's gotten everything right. So please keep those answers coming, and you'll be winning a really great box full of goodies. It's going to be really great. And let's see, I'll announce that as soon as I can after the 7th. Thank you so much for joining me in the Gothic Bohemian Salon. I can't wait to hear what you think about this subject. And have a very good evening.